The two types of lasers that are used for tattoo removal are going to be a Q-switch laser and a pico laser. So these are different than the other lasers typically used for aesthetic treatments in terms of how the energy is delivered. It's the same wavelengths that are used for other conditions, but instead of being on the tissue in milliseconds or microseconds, when you use these lasers for Q-switch, it's going to pulse a billion times a second. And if it's a pico laser, it's going to pulse a trillion times a second. How anything pulses that fast, I have no idea. So what that does is it basically delivers the energy in a photoacoustic fashion. So it's not just heat like it is with a typical laser, it's shock waves. And those shock waves break up the ink. So you can think about a Q switch, which has been around way longer than pico lasers, as if you took a rock and you blasted it apart and you ended up with little pebbles. So that's considering the ink particles that you would break them up into little pebbles with a Q switch. A pico laser is going to take those pebbles and turn them into dust. So it's pulsing faster, so it's going to create finer ablation on your target. Now, you've also got to use the proper wavelengths for the color of ink that you're using. So, for example, the most common wavelengths that are used are a 1064 in the YAG wavelength and a 532. And so they're in different parts of the spectrum. So 1064, predominantly used for black tattoos, really dark tattoos. And then the 532, because it's the green part of the spectrum, is predominantly used for red tattoos or similar colors like that. So you've got a couple other wavelengths that you can access by buying a more expensive laser or what they call pulse dye kits that produce different wavelengths, but it cuts your power down. So those are the two most popular by far. And these lasers are also used for skin rejuvenation, which is kind of a cool way to do it. It's kind of a cool thing to throw in the mix oftentimes for skin rejuvenation. So pico lasers are really popular, but they're pricey for doing no downtime, no numbing facial rejuvenations, because you're basically using that super fast pulsing shock wave energy to stimulate the tissue. And then you can do it with a Q switch as well. So there's a lot of nuances with all this stuff, but if you have any questions, reach out, be happy to talk to you about it and explain the differences and, different devices and different lasers that are out there for that. Thanks.